right, welcome back to Fabrication 101. We're obviously still working on the Bronco here. We're back trying to get this second turbo position sorted out, figured out. We've been monkeying with it for quite a bit, moving things around, twisting, turning, bop it, you know, all that stuff. Trying to get it figured out where it's going to live. I think we got it pretty well sorted. It's very tight, like I knew it was going to be. I ended up cutting out this side of the shock mount, which we'll have to replace, which is why I decided to do it in this order. You know, I started with the turbo or the exhaust manifold, then I did the front axle. It's pretty much where it's going to live now. But before I can build my new shock mounts off the bottom, I needed to do this because I kind of thought that this was going to be an issue, and turns out I was right. So for a little bit there, for a little tiny bit, I was delusionally thinking I might be able to get this turbo to sit in here without having to cut that out. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but I think that's going to open it up to do some things a little bit differently, maybe even a little bit better. So we'll pull you over here, show you what we've got going on and how tight things are, and then we'll kind of go over what we're going to be working on next. All right, so you can see our turbo. Here's our primary and then atmospheric. I think I can never keep these straight. This one's mounted. It's nice and solid. I still got a little bit of plumbing stuff to sort out. This just needs to be tweaked a little bit to get that drain to go in. This is for the wastegate on the turbo. We'll get that sorted out. That's nothing too crazy. The turbo, this atmospheric turbo, the second turbo, the larger turbo, is really just hanging off of these, off of the hoist here. These soft shackles are good for a lot of things besides pulling vehicles. But I've also got a mount kind of halfway designed to work in the back of the exhaust where it's just clamped to the frame. You can see right there. And it's kind of supporting things. Obviously, there's still quite a bit of work to do here. We have our 4-inch here. You can actually see the turbo wiggle there a little bit. So we got just enough room. So it's kind of touching the back of the alternator. This screw will go in. I might try to see if there's a way I can oval this tube, this 4-inch tube a little bit. But the plan is for this to rotate up. This will rotate down just a little bit more. This tube will come up and come like that over into there. Where we're really tight is back here where the exhaust is, or the output for the exhaust. Obviously, this heater hose tube is going to have to get removed or replaced or taken out altogether. This is a 3-inch exhaust out of the back, and I have about 3 1/4 inches from the back of here to this body flange. So I'll end up probably flattening that over and then dropping that 3-inch really tightly out and down. And then I think my exhaust from here will kind of do a little finagle, little zigzag, and we'll come down into this flange. There will also be a mount from here to there, mounting this turbo to that exhaust manifold, but I'm also going to that is not going to be the only mount. What I'm going to do, and I've seen this done before kind of in the drag racing world, is where my turbo drain is, which will come out right about here. I'm going to make it a little bit longer and then use a piece of steel tubing, weld 10 AN, or is it 8? I can't remember. Into that, and then this will also serve as a mount, and I'll tie it probably over to this engine mount. I just got to figure out a way to probably bolt it to the engine mount rather than weld it. That way things are still somewhat serviceable, and I can get things in and out when I need to. Obviously, I got some heater hoses that are going to have to be rerouted or removed, to be perfectly honest. It's been a long time since the heater has worked in this thing, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's a brand new heater. I kind of think I might have it wired, the fan wired backwards. But it might also be the fact that my air intake box right here covers up about half of the air intake for the heater. I don't know. As it is, haven't had much reason to run the heater, so I'm kind of half tempted to just pull those hoses out for now. And then if I can figure out a way to run them later around the exhaust and around all the heat, which I think it's possible, they may get put back in. It sounds like it's starting to rain. So anyway, we're gonna get on to making this upper part of the mount here, making a little tab there. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and tap this flange from the side so I don't have to run nuts underneath it. We'll see if we can get that thing sorted out. Well, power just went out. I guess I'm done for today. All right, well, it's been a minute since the power went out. Actually, power didn't go off for very long. And I managed to get this little brace made. I'll show you guys what it looks like under here. So, you can see that thing kind of welded a stud. Well, right now it's just tack welded onto the side of the motor mount. Put a big spacer in here. Had a part here for the drain tube, so it can connect there. Just made a piece of, this is actually half-inch solid bar, I think. It comes over, should do a really nice job of supporting that. What I was super worried about and wanted to make sure was that this whole setup mount is mounted to the motor, because this motor does move quite a bit, does vibrate and rotate. And so I wanted to make sure I wasn't mounting it to the frame where it's going to be separate mounted, because that would just lead to some problems. And actually, a while back I ran into an issue with this that I had to fix ever since I put these much softer motor mounts in. When I first built this thing, my throttle cable mount was actually mounted to the firewall, and going up steep obstacles, especially in low range, anytime I put the engine in reverse, the motor would rock or twist so hard that it would actually pull my throttle linkage and rev the motor up. So I had to, quickly stab the brakes anytime I was trying to do anything like that. So before I went to Sand Hollow last year, I made this bracket that relocated and put an actual regular cable, a soft cable in it, so it can flex with the motor. And that seemed to fix a lot of things. I do need to pull it off and clean it and lubricate it, because it got really tight while I was in Sand Hollow. And I think it just got some sand in it that I need to take care of and clean. But it did fix the issue quite a bit. But that motor does rock and twist quite a bit, especially with those really soft motor mounts in there. But it fixed a lot of other issues. So the next step here is going to be making the tube that goes from here down to there. You can see I've got a plate tacked on here for now. Eventually that'll get fully welded and maybe some additional gussets added to it as well. The challenge being here is this tube is not going to be very long. I would like to add in like a flex joint, vibration control, something or other, because I have no doubt that as this whole stainless header expands and contracts, the distance between here and here is going to move a little bit. It probably won't move a ton, but enough that I'm afraid and a little worried about cracking. I may come back and actually slot the holes in this, although if it's bolted tight, I don't know how much it's going to move. But I have this. The problem is this is a little too long. So I'm going to see if I can ruin this $55 part by trying to shorten it and weld it back together and see if I can make it work. So that's going to be our next step. All right, well, it's been about a week since I decided that I filmed that last little section of the video, and some things have transpired, I guess I should say. I don't know, it doesn't need to sound that ominous. Anyway, I did cut the expansion joint, and I did not realize that the bellows part of these is double wall, And each wall is like 28 or 30 gauge stainless steel, very, very thin. That's like 0.006, something like that, thousandths of an inch. So super, super thin. My TIG welder, my little Prime 200 over there, is only goes down to 10 amps. And one of my always kind of like negatives about it is it doesn't have very good low amperage arc starting capabilities, and so it wants to hit it really hard. And so playing on this piece, I could not get at least even a somewhat decent weld. I mean, this thin of material realistically is on the level of micro or laser TIG welding under magnifying glasses, that kind of stuff. So I haven't given up on it entirely. I still have the little part made, and I may, see if there's other ways I can make that work. It's never going to be perfect because I obviously can't weld the inside and the outside of the bellows together. And I'm still kind of on the search for a shorter one, but I'm hoping that moving forward that maybe we don't need to worry too much about that, because I don't have I ran out of skill trying to weld something that thin. I don't have the right machine for it. It was going to be tough. It was going to be a challenge. Even with the right equipment, I think it'd be kind of a tough weld to do, because looking at the seam inside of this, it's pretty clear that it's a very, very, very small weld. A couple other things. It's been about a week, like I said. Went down a rabbit hole trying to chase down either a smaller or shorter one of these. Kind of realized that the back of this turbo housing is not 3 inches, even though I was using 3-inch exhaust. It's actually kind of an oddball size, and it's not a V-band clamp. It's I forget what they call it. Marriman, Meritor, something, Merriman band. I don't know. It's something weird. So I'm gonna get rid of that, and I found this part, which replaces the back housing of the turbo. Has a 3-inch V-band on it with a piece of 3-inch tube. Now, this would probably work, and it just might, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this part off and shortened this quite a bit, just to give myself as much room to work as I can. I'm having trouble finding the opposite side of this V-band, and if you just order a 3-inch V-band flange kit, the flanges are different. This is a slightly different size. This has the ring on the inside so that they kind of align each other. So I'm going to cut this one off. I'll stick it in a box somewhere and weld one of these on to get my depth, get it back together where I need it to be. Shouldn't be too much of a challenge, although welding around the corner of the V-band up in here is probably going to require me to bend a tungsten to get in there, so which isn't really that big of a deal. So that's where we're going to go. We're going to probably squirt some juice on these, some penetrating oil on these bolts, and hope that they don't give me too much of a fight taking them off. And then work on figuring out a way to mount this up so I can put it in my saw and make a nice straight cut through here, because I'm going to go, the back of the other turbo has a similar different size housing on it, and so I'm just going to make them both the same. And I'm going to do probably the same thing on that one, where I'm going to have to shorten it at the same time. So making a way to mount this up and get it in the saw so I can get them both nice and straight cuts, both on the same length, is going to be my next step. All right, so the new flange is on. Pretty happy with the way that came out. It's a hair longer than the stock one. Unfortunately, I did manage to snap off a couple of the bolts in the housing, but the old weld the nut trick, which I don't know why, maybe it's magic, physics, whatever. It always seems to take me at least 2 attempts of welding the nut on there. Always seems to be the first nut just kind of spins off on the end. Then the second one always seems to work. Like I said, the other one, one of them took 2, the other one took 3 attempts. So I guess that holds pretty well true. Next steps, going to be to put the back piece of the flange on there. And then work on taking a piece of 3-inch and figure out what we need. It looks like it's actually going to be not too bad. Shorten it a little bit. Hopefully it stays the right length as we get closer. And then we'll work on getting it to fit down inside of there. I think I can square it up and then make it work. So a little bit of, it's going to be taking a little bit of time because it's a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. And you kind of work your way down and in as you go. So we'll get that moving. All right, well, to be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure where I left off. I'm pretty sure I was working on the elbow coming out of the one turbo. I ended up needing to order a little bit more stainless 3-inch pipe. So I kind of put that on hold for a little bit while I was waiting for that, but I decided, you know, keep things moving along and keep working on some other stuff. So let's see, one of the other things, so I went ahead and welded up the tab that's coming off of the side of the header for the one flange mount. Added a couple little gussets to each side of that. Got that all welded up. I went ahead and welded a 3-inch aluminum 3-inch V-band onto the one side of the atmospheric turbo. I got the other stainless V-band welded on the back of the atmospheric turbo, so that I actually managed to shorten that up even a little bit more than the factory one. So that's nice. Gives me a little bit more room to work with when it comes to that exhaust coming out of the back of the turbo. Got pretty optimistic in that I'm really hoping I don't have to take all this stuff back out. The smaller turbo, or primary, I think, is hopefully installed for the last time. The manifold or the header is installed hopefully for the last time. When I say last time, I mean like I put gaskets in there, I put thread locker or locking bolts, lock washers, threaded lock nuts, whatever you want to call them, all into those places. I also went ahead and did the 60-pound valve springs. At the same time I did that, I went ahead and put new valve seals, umbrella seals in, and then just for the fun of it, I went ahead and relashed all my valves. Most of them were pretty good. There were a couple that were actually a little loose, I would say. So hopefully that, I don't know if that's going to really help with anything, but hopefully it just makes things that little tiny much better. But yeah, so I've actually done quite a bit in the time that I didn't film most of it, just because sometimes it's easier just to get work done than to spend a bunch of time thinking and doing and talking and doing all that other stuff. So I've still got a long ways to go. Got to continue. I think I've got a plan over here for the charge tube that's going to come from my atmospheric turbo and go into the primary. I think I've got a route planned for my intake from my air filter, which I thought about trying to move my air filter somewhere that would make this a little easier. There's not a whole lot I can do, so I am going to change that just a tiny bit. But you know, one big change is we're going from a 3-inch tube to a 4-inch tube. That's what this big 4-inch coupler is for. So that's going to make things a little bit tighter, but I think I've got a plan, or at least I've got a plan in my head that I think will work. Looks like I need to tighten that just a little bit more. So anyway, we'll walk you through what's going on over here real quick. I think I want to start with this charge tube up here from the turbo to the other turbo, and then we'll work on the intake tube from the air filter, and then last thing, I think final is going to be to get the exhaust routed. Then I still have to plumb everything. I've got a pretty good plan on most of my plumbing. When I'm talking about plumbing, I'm talking about oil feed lines, oil drain lines, and that kind of stuff. I think we're going to be okay. It's definitely tight. I'm definitely going to have to do some funny stuff with this tube that comes off over here for the shock mount. It's going to come further back and down behind and kind of out and around, and hopefully will work and maybe provide a little bit of protection from the tires and things, because I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be able to keep the tire from coming up into this area like I'd hoped. But you know, the master cylinder on that side has never been touched, and so I think if I'm in that same general vicinity, I think we'll be okay. All right. Well, the tube came out okay. Well, it's not done, obviously. I got a lot of welding to do, but I'm pretty happy with that. I probably could have done without that seam there, but everything worked out. But I do have quite a bit of welding to do. I got to do some tweaking because as I was trying to get it into the V-band flange, I kind of bent some of the pie cuts. So I need to straighten those out a little bit just to get them to line up that much better before welding. But everything should weld out just fine. So I guess we'll get to that part of this job. All right, well, we're back in the shop. In a couple of days, I think. Got the this charge tube done. Pretty happy with the way that came out. This is a little higher than I was hoping, but I think I've got enough room that I can make this work. I do have a little more clearance back here under the hood than I did up here. You can actually see this shiny spot on this tube is kind of where the hood tends to sit and rub. I think before this is all said and done and completed, I'm actually going to put a little maybe like bump stop or hood stop here, like a rubber pad, because if you look across, you can see that the hood does rub in a couple of places. Most of them aren't too bad. Oops. I think we're going to be good as far as turbo and everything here goes, because it does rub on the brace. You can see right there where that one rubs. But this is going to be tight in here because I got about 3.5-ish inches in here to make a piece of 3-inch tubing fit through there. So it should be kind of fun. Would have got more work done yesterday, but somebody had to go to the vet and she had a big old growth on the side of her face, and it had to get drained. So hopefully that's not a problem. You can kind of see where it got shaved there. But hopefully it wasn't anything she chewed up, because she does have a tendency, no, what is the word? She likes to chew on TV remotes, right? You like, for some reason, in the Amazon TV remotes, she has got a affinity for those, a taste for them, I guess, because she's chewed up about 6 of them. I know, she looks all sweet and innocent, but she likes to chew on, especially plastic TV remotes. Anyway, back to this. We're going to start working on that. I'm going to start by making a series of pie cuts to get down and around. Man, these wires are kind of all over the place and in the way. I'm going to have to clean a lot of this stuff up when I go to finish this. I'm not even sure what that wire goes to anymore. Anyway, we'll start making some pie cuts, see if we can make this exhaust turn and come down into that area, and then we'll work on from there. All right, well, it's just tacked together, but pretty happy with that. Got a lot of welding to get taken care of, but managed to have just a little bit of room back here, about maybe 3/8 of an inch, maybe. But kind of come down here. I'm probably going to leave this slip fit connection on here for now. I may even use it. I think, I'm trying to remember, the original exhaust, hi Pepper, came up through here, so I'm going to try and tie it, hopefully be able to tie right into that without too much trouble. And you know, you're in the way. Okay, thank you. But we got a lot of welding to do, so we're going to get after that. Actually, I'm going to go eat some lunch first, and then I got a lot of welding to do, so we'll see you after a bit. All right, well, just shorted out a brand new battery, burned my hand. I think I'm ready to start this thing. I got the exhaust is all finalized, turbo's all finalized. oil feeds, oil drains, all that stuff is good. I even cleaned up some of the old wiring, shortened some things, redid some things, found some things unhooked that I'm not sure were ever hooked up, so I'm not really sure where they go. So we're going to see if it runs. We're going to try and fire it up. I still have to bleed the fuel system since I had to take the fuel lines off so that I could do the valve springs. So we're going to have a little bit of cranking. Hopefully a new battery will work. Unfortunately, both batteries that were in this were from like 2019. So a few years of life in them. They're both dead. So I had to replace them. We just replaced one for now. Anyway, we're going to see if this thing will crank. See if we got enough juice to crank here. Well, she's running and run pretty okay. Sounds good. Do have a couple issues. Got a pretty significant fuel leak coming from this little crossover return line right there on that one. I do have new coppers for that, so I'll just replace that one. Everything else looks good, but I do have a pretty significant exhaust leak coming from the two middle cylinders. So I'm going to try to loosen and retorque those top and bottom. I couldn't feel anything on the other two, so we'll try to take care of that. Everything else sounds good. I do want to crack my turbo lines and make sure I had oil coming through them, which I should, hopefully. And if that's the case, if we do have oil there and I can get those two exhaust leaks, the turbo system, except for finishing the exhaust, will be done. I'm pretty happy, pretty excited. Don't know if the engine sounds any different or better. Kind of sounded a little smoother. It was idling, it seemed a little smoother. I do think I'm going to go ahead and put the 4,000 RPM governor spring in it, just because with the new 60-pound valve springs, should be able to handle that a little bit. I did go through and relash all the valves also, so that might have helped a little bit. But anyway, we'll see if we can get this exhaust leak taken care of and a little bit of a fuel leak, and then we'll be right back. All right, well, good news and kind of bad news. Not so good news. Fuel leak's fixed. That was the easy one. Unfortunately, I think I know where the exhaust leak is, and it's not a loose exhaust manifold. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this on the camera, but if we look in here, you probably won't be able to see this, but if I turn my flashlight, if I can get it turned the right way. Okay, come on, flashlight. Well, maybe you can't see it there. So right down there, you can just make out the edge. I don't know if you guys can see that. The edge of this tube, or where it's welded. And so I'm betting on the backside, it's a lot worse on the backside there, and the backside here where I can't see, but here I can see a little bit on this side too. And what I'm seeing is not really seeing a hole in there. I think I'm seeing like the edge of the weld, and maybe this will kind of illustrate it a little bit better. This is the old exhaust manifold gasket. Wow, you can see where it was leaking too. This is not the right one. This is actually for a newer, like 24 valve. But anyway, my hole size on my manifold is similar. And so if I try to line these up, and they don't line up perfectly, but you can just make out a little edge of the hole peeking out there. So that's the problem. All right, manifold's off. And it's pretty obvious what's going on now. And you can see it pretty clearly. This is the front. This is the back of this block. Actually, the back's not